London. My name is Angie Judge, and welcome to Dexibit's special showcase on conversational insight with AI and Ask. We're going to be hearing today directly from our customers at cultural and commercial attractions with New England Aquarium and Monopoly Dreams on what they've been achieving with AI and how they've been incorporating this technology into their ways of working. So thank you so much for spending the day with us. We can't wait to dive in to show you the future that is here today. And I'm joined with some of the team from Dexibit, who I'll introduce shortly. We'll all be hanging out in the comment section, so feel free to introduce yourself, DM us, ask questions in the Q&A too, as we go along, and we'll join in on the conversation. We're especially grateful to see many of our longtime Dexibit friends here alongside some new faces as well. So for those of you who are new to Dexibit, we provide data and AI specifically for out-of-home entertainment and edutainment, so both cultural and commercial attractions. And we bring together all the data from your existing source systems across the visitor experience and the venue operation into magical data experiences. So think things like dashboards, reports, insights, and forecasts, and powerful data management for data newbies and experts alike. We integrate with over 100 different industry source systems to help get more visitors through the door, engaging and spending more, leaving happy and returning loyally, all with now hyper efficiency. Because in September of this year, we launched Ask by Dexibit. So now with our AI, you can talk to your data to do work in, on, and with it, something that's called conversational insight. So like Dexibit, Ask is designed specifically for the visitor experience economy. It's tuned just for your attraction. And through the magic and power of Dexibit, it's connected to all your data. It's got the voice of your visitors, and we've given it our world at Dexibit too. So it knows everything from the difference between visitation and attendance to our latest benchmarks on optimizing for visitor discovery in GPT. And today we're going to see it in action, including some of the cool new features we've given Ask in the past few months. And the incredible thing about Ask by Dexibit is that for those that have been working with us for years, you were ready for it instantly. You've done all the thoughtful work with your data, invested in understanding your visitors, and built that culture of curiosity that's so important. And that foundation has enabled you to turn on a dime into an AI world. And today we're going to hear about how you've been adopting and accelerating that. So sit back and relax. Let's jump into the future together. We're going to start by hearing from Ravi Chandra, our Chief Product and Technology Officer at Dexibit. Let's talk about why we built Ask and tell us everything we need to know about conversational insight. Over to you, Ravi.
Angie, our customers, they know that the best decisions are backed by insight and evidence. Insight and evidence that can only come from their trove of data. But the data at a visitor attraction, it's like a complex tapestry woven from millions of interactions. You all know what I'm talking about. When a visitor even contemplates their first visit, they reserve a ticket, they walk through the gates and they're counted by a football camera, they enjoy one of the special exhibitions, buy a gift at the gift store for their children or their friends, enjoy a coffee at the cafe, or leave a review afterwards. Each one of these events generates a piece of data. It's beautiful. I love it as a data person, but it's messy. And hand on heart, it's almost impenetrable for non-experts. Dexibit, we try and unravel this web to democratize data for our customers. Our motto has always been to provide the insight to answer any question. To do this, we've made a multi-year investment to deliver on this problem through industry-specific integrations with the richest, most granular data available. We've built a flexible real-time query engine for the fastest results and reports. And I think most importantly, we've taken everything that we've learned over the years and we've tried to bottle it into a semantic layer that really understands the language of the industry and the metrics that truly matter and move the needle. So Ask is our latest innovation that makes it easier than ever to find insight. It builds on our data platform and our investment with the first and best conversational and agentic capabilities in the industry. Ask has only been possible because of three things: our commitment to frontier technology, our unique industry knowledge, and our semantic layer that understands and stands on the shoulders of your data, not the general public's data. While the interface might appear similar, the depth of the Ask experience is unparalleled and simply not comparable to an off-the-shelf product like ChatGPT, which does not have this deep depth and understanding that we do. But what I think is so compelling is that being able to use natural language in Ask, it's the ultimate equalizer to empower any and every user to feel like they can participate in this increasingly data-rich world. Participation is the key and one of the true unlocks behind Ask. But Ask is not just about answers. It doesn't just inform, it can create, it can learn from you, and it can act. Ask will remember what you care the most about. It will act on your behalf. Ask won't tell you that your memberships are down. It can draft the win-back email. It can see that gold nugget in your data that you didn't even think to look for or even ask about. What we want us to do is be able to work for you while you sleep. Archimedes, the great ancient Greek scientist, said, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I will move the world." I believe that with Ask as your lever and standing on Dexibit's deep data foundation, you can truly ask any question. And this is why we do what we do. We want every user to move their world. And now let's have a look at it in action. Angie.
Cool, now for the fun part. Let's have a look. I'm going to share my screen here. And let's take this thing for a test drive. So this is Ask in Dexibit. If you're a Dexibit user, it'll show up here on the left-hand menu for you. And it looks like, as Ravi mentioned, kind of like ChatGPT or Claude on the front line, it's got a prompt line here where you can ask it a question. And so if you're not sure where to start, just ask it what you should ask, or ask it what it can do, ask it to tell you interesting things about the past or what's coming in the future, what you should be worried about, what you should be celebrating with your team. Or you can use these pills here. So you'll see that there's some suggestions: create, learn, understand, explore, look at the environment or the voice of the visitor. So these are nice jumping off points if you'd just like a simple place to start. So let's have a look at a few things that I prepared earlier. To start with, I actually was interested in segmenting my audience. So I asked it to create a detailed market segmentation of my audience, weaving together all the data that it's got. And you can see here, it does some thinking to work out like, how's it going to solve this problem? What data does it need? And then it does some work to search and query my data to see what it's got access to. Has a look at sort of the almanac and what sort of things are in there that might be interesting. And then it starts to produce the results. Even did a graph here. I didn't actually like the graph that it gave me because I like pie charts, a loyalist to pie charts. So I asked it to change that, but we could equally say like, change that to a bar chart. I know pie charts aren't everybody's cup of tea, and can go in and make some changes, preview them here, and then commit them into our conversation. But you can see here, I've got some strategic recommendations of all of the different segments that it's found by weaving together all the different datas here, and some avatars that I can look at that might help, say, my marketing team or my experience and exhibition management team. So that was super fun. I really liked that one. Let's close out this conversation and jump into a new one. I've got a food and beverage operator who's running my cafe, and I was curious to get it to write a performance report. So I asked it to use both my visitors' review comments and then also the transactions of what those visitors are buying in the cafe or what they're not buying. And so it went and did some thinking on all of my different data sets and found a whole pile of analysis and wrote me a review report, a performance report for that. So equally, maybe I might say, like, here my pretend museum is based in Washington, D.C. So I might like to use like D.C. state law, for example, to see, if there's any sort of incidents that I need to be worried about here. So I can bring in some of that external context as well. And I love the way that it's giving me little snippets of anecdotal elements of visitor feedback to back up what it's saying there, which is really cool. And then I was worried a bit about, we're coming into end of year, and I was thinking, like, are we going to hit our targets, and are we tracking to our projection? So I asked it to give me a little bit of a state of play against my forecast and my goals of how things are tracking and whether I might need to reproject as well. And actually, one of the things that would be really cool is I want to start thinking about a new menu for next year. So I went ahead and asked it, let's have a look back here, asked it to write me a new menu based on that Antarctica theme, so something nice and creative. So I said, like, go and have a look at what visitors are saying they like and what they don't like and what's selling well and what doesn't, and then develop me a new menu that I can take back to this third-party operator. Maybe that'll help boost my per caps in my cafe. So here is the expedition provisions. That's kind of cute. Fish from the Southern Ocean, and the greenhouse dome. So a great creative way to be able to do things like menu design with your partners that took a long time previously. But I know that there's somebody out there who's thinking, well, let's see this thing live. So Ravi, I think we should take this for a test drive.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. I want to research some important dates in Antarctica history. Could I spell that right, live? And relating to expeditions and conservation, and put them in my almanac. So while it's doing that, the almanac in Dexibit is something really unique to Dexibit. It's a calendar of what's on in and around your attraction. And we provide you with things like a global feed, your country's feed, your local city or state. You can create your own calendars as well, lots of them for things like corporate events or education or your marketing campaigns. So it's a great way to collect all of that contextual intelligence that you can then feed into things like forecasts and analysis. And also Ask has got access to it. But here it's actually doing work on the internet. So it's doing some research here. And then it's starting to do work in my data. So it's accessing the almanac. It looks like it's creating a calendar, Ravi. What's happening under the scene here?
Yeah, under the hood, Ask has access to a lot of the APIs that drive our product, and it can control them on your behalf. I think it's one of the most fantastic experiences watching it work on your behalf.
Yeah, super cool. And I could maybe build off this. One of the tips we'd suggest is like keep a conversation running for your primary topics, and then if you're sort of talking about something new, create a whole new conversation. But I could kind of keep going with this and say, like, make me a marketing campaign around this or a social media post about that. So it looks like it's done a great job here. So it's created some item types. Let's have a look. It had a look through and worked out. So it needed a new item type that it put in there. And then it's gone through and updated that. We'll jump in and share the work that it's done in the almanac. But just before we do, we can actually share this whole conversation out to our other users or groups that are within our organization. Of course, all of your data stays protected in Ask. Or Ravi, you've shared some with me as well.
Yeah, I was interested to know about the origin of visitors to our institution, and so I asked Ask, are my visitors local or from afar? And I was really, really pleased with the result. It was interesting to find out that actually they're not that local, not what I thought.
Tourists. Super fun. So let's jump into this almanac. So this is the calendar of what's on. You can see here I've got my global and country and my Washington, D.C. And this is where it's been created, creating all of those events. So let's see. Oh, here we go. Antarctica Treaty Day. This is one of the observances that it's created for me in my calendar. Super cool. And you can see here some of the other events that are on. Like, for example, today is Friday in New Zealand, probably still Thursday in the US, but it's International Volunteer Day. So, a big moment for lots of museums and zoos and things out there in the world who have large volunteer bases. So that's super fun. It's been amazing to use Ask. As you can see, it's such a great experience to be able to very simply interact with your data. But I think you've probably heard from us enough. Time to jump in, and we will start with Pierre Perez, who's going to introduce us to Sophie Weber, who's the General Manager of Monopoly Dreams in Melbourne. So over to you, Pierre, and I will get you to unmute your mic as well, and we'll hand over.
Yeah, thank you. It is usually better when you unmute your mic to start a conversation, isn't it? We all made that mistake, I think, once or twice before. But yes, thank you, Sophie, for joining us. And we're going to talk a little bit about Monopoly Dreams in Melbourne, right? Australia first and the world's largest immersive Monopoly experience located in Melbourne Central. You guys bring the iconic board game to life, I think, with interactive zones, games, a 4DX cinema, laser maze challenge, plus a Monopoly-themed cafe and retail store. It's such a fascinating mix of, when Ravi talk about data scope and data landscape, it's ticketing through custom link, retail and F&B through ZPOS, Shopify for e-commerce, and then we have all the bells and whistles of the elements around guest experience data, reviews, forecasting. So that makes really the venue optimization so exciting, right? So thank you, Sophie, for joining and welcome.
Thank you very much, Pierre. My pleasure.
Sweet.
So, yeah,
and we've been...
There you go.
No, you're good. I was going to say we've been working together for a few years now, Sophie, and we've been looking at data for a few years, but things have changed recently, right? In the way we're looking at the data, and I know you, for a few years now. So what I know about you is that you're always looking for ways to optimize operations, understand what products and goods are selling, at the venue, in the F&B, in the retail section, the timing at which they sell, and trends you can identify. And if I've summed that up correctly, I think we're always looking for a way to streamline operations without impacting the guest experience. So when you explore the data with us, like what sort of insights did you discover around those pieces, like the F&B, the retail, and maybe the operation side?
Yeah, well, Dexibit's been a bit of a lifesaver, as Pierre mentioned. Sorry, I've got sun coming in on my face. As Pierre mentioned, we use a multitude of different data sources. So firstly, to be able to bring them all into one dashboard has really changed our whole reporting life, if you like. The continuity, the data integrity is really important, of course, because if we can't trust our numbers, it's really difficult to make informed decisions. Because, as Pierre mentioned, we have a multifaceted business and we're only as good as our last guest experience. So we do a deeper dive than most probably, and with sort of daily regularity to really understand what's happening in the venue from admissions, and then what the flow and effect is for our retail and cafe. But our biggest resource is our people, and it's can sometimes be our most expensive resource, but it's the most important one. And we use the data to really ascertain, how do we look at our rostering patterns, how do we look at our visitation patterns, and align them up to really optimize and maximize the opportunity for the guest experience, and certainly to be as efficient as possible with our team. So where it's been really exciting for us to start to work with Ask is being able to look at things like heat maps, to know when our guests are actually shopping our retail store, for example. We open at 10 o'clock. in the morning. Our last session comes in at 5:30 in the evening, and 7:30 on a Thursday and a Friday night. So there's a huge day of operations, and we know that not everybody is buying retail throughout the day. So we use the data to help us work out when we need to roster on people in our retail store, people in our cafe, and when to uplift depending on the visitor trends. We're able to get into the finite data of peak versus off peak. And what Ask is helping me to do is I can ask the question and I get told, sort of validating my assumptions, if you like, without having to get in there and manually pull the data myself. What's been really exciting also is looking at it from an overarching operation perspective. Melbourne's had a fair bit of activity happening in the city over the last couple of months. It's obviously an event city, but some of the events most recently have been quite a deterrent for our family market. There's been quite a lot of protests. There's been reports of increased violence in the city. And as a family entertainment space, that's really crucial to understanding when things are scheduled and when they're not, but also to be able to understand the impact on our visitation based on those events for forward planning. And what Ask has enabled me to do and my team is to be able to make informed decisions based on rostering, based on operational admission time slots, etc., based on what we're seeing with the guest behaviour. Believe it or not, and you probably will believe it, there's been a real shift in walk-ups. So a big part of our business is measured on pre-books, and then the other biggest sort of driver is walk-ups, where people are considering on the day, what am I going to do? I'm going to come into the city for a spontaneous day, and you know what? Monopoly's been on my list. Today's the day. So that's always been something that's really important for us to monitor because, again, bring it back to the operation. It helps us determine our rostering on what is the multiplier. If we start the day with 60 people pre-booked, we can end the day with up to 400 walking in. So we've got to do a multiplier on how many staff we need and at which time in all the areas of the business. So what we've seen during these times where there's been more action in the city that has been a little bit, scary for some families is the pre-books go up, but the walk-ins go down and the pie gets smaller. So then we have to recalibrate. And what Ask is helping me to do is all the legwork. I can validate it because we've had four or five protests, so I've got base data now that Ask can, validate what was happening in the city at a certain time. It can then look at the correlation of our visitation trends. It can then look at the booking behaviours. And I then am able to work with my operations and retail manager when we review the rosters and say, okay, well, we know that this is coming. We know that this is what we've seen before. So let's prepare for it. And that is where I think AI is so fantastic because it just drives that operational efficiency. It helps validate those insights or those instinct beliefs that we all have, but being able to actually quantify it makes that decision making a lot easier. And we share that data quite openly with our team, so everyone feels really empowered and really understands the how and why we make certain decisions.
I love that you made a couple of great points, and I like how you say it helps me validate or not my assumptions, right? It's almost like that neutral, we call it Switzerland internally. No, we
Yes.
don't. But it's almost that neutral person, right? That's like, I'm either going to validate your assumption or I'm going to prove you wrong, essentially, or show you an alternative, right? Is that like what you like, when you interact with Ask compared to how we're traditionally looking at data, is that like how you feel almost? It's either going to tell you yes or no?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Before I was a GM, I was a lifelong marketeer, and so I'm quite familiar with the dark arts of using your instinct to make decisions and using data to construct a commercial argument, if you like. What Ask is helping me to do is we work in a hyper dynamic space. Tourism is obviously incredibly exciting, but can be volatile at certain times of the year. So being able to use the data to just drive that validation, challenge assumptions, but more importantly, and I think we spoke about this earlier this week, Pierre, for some of my team who are less experienced in insight mining, it builds their confidence and really you can sit there and say, I have a fabulous team member called Adriana and she looks after retail. And so we talk a lot about in the weekly reporting, what's selling, what isn't, what's working. We've just done a big Black Friday sale. So sometimes if you don't know what to look for, it's really hard to provide meaningful commentary when asked on a performance about something. So for someone like her and other team members, this gives them the confidence to really dig deep, to ask a different perspective, pardon the pun there with the double ask, and really being able to learn and grow on the job and develop themselves as I guess more impactful team members because they're able to build their commercial nous in a safe space and again validate or question some of their insights or their gut instincts, but build that confidence, which I really like because that stuff, some people have it naturally, some people need to learn it, but the more you use that skill, the better you get at it. And I think having our team are very excited to use AI, and I actually started having a conversation with Pierre about, we're thinking of going down another path with a different partner. And he goes, before you subscribe, let me show you what's happening. And we had a stakeholder meeting just last week, and being able to pull out some of this data about the impact of the activities in broader Melbourne City, what that means for tourism, what that means for our business and the family market really helped us shape our conversation with these shareholders about the why of what's happening when performance is up or performance is down. And that becomes really credible. It helps, really open the doors of some good conversation. But most importantly, when we think about time as our most valuable resource and our people, we can then spend the time working on the solutions as opposed to trying to ascertain what the problem is. And that has changed our whole workflow of being able to use Ask because it correlates real world data with our own data to then provide a roadmap to say, okay, here's what our problem is. Here's the crux of the issue. So now, guys, let's think about what we're going to do to create those solutions so we can get back on track or we can amplify an opportunity.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. It's so insightful. I'm sure a lot of the folks here found it insightful as well. And it's great. Like I love the way you shape it in terms of like you having a conversation with AI, you having a conversation with a machine essentially with data, with conversational insights, right? But this is actually sparking conversation indoors in your organization, and then you're having broader conversations, but it just speeds up the process dramatically. That's so insightful. I love that. But we had, it's great. We had a good look at our opportunities in front of us. I think Sophie, you've summed that up really well on the operational and commercial standpoint. And maybe now we head to New England to explore some of the additional strategic and approaches you've taken there with Susan.
Thank you, Pierre and Sophie. Joining from Boston, we have Mike from New England Aquarium. Welcome, Mike.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
A little bit about New England Aquarium. They are a leading nonprofit research and conservation organization that have been protecting and caring for marine animals for over 50 years. They host visitors from all around the world who come to the aquarium to experience their unique giant ocean tank, special animal encounters, 3D cinema, and an abundance of food and retail offerings. So as you can imagine, the team at New England work with all sorts of different data to enhance venue operations and the visitor experience. So, Mike, I understand that you've been in the midst of preparing for some big capital projects in 2026. Could you tell us a little bit about how you're planning for those using Ask?
Yeah. So we have some exhibits that are maybe going offline and some that are added. We're doing some wayfinding work as well, and some behind the scenes work is as people get as they come into the aquarium. So that's also important. So we're using Ask to track the possible effects on our attendance and when the right time is to do some of these projects. So it's really been helpful to brainstorm different ways of doing it and implementing these changes. So
amazing. And I know you have Voice of the Visitor. Curious to understand what your experience has been like that, bringing in the Voice of the Visitor for your planning.
Yeah, it's great putting different sources of these kind of qualitative information together in one spot, and then quantifying it and seeing across all of it the things that we're improving on, things we need to work on, and kind of culling that list for us. So whether it's the questions that people have, or if there's a capacity issue. We've got a relatively small aquarium, and we've got to be really careful about how many tickets we sell on a summer weekend, for instance. So we can see some of the comments and see those changes over time, and that's been really, really helpful.
Cool, thank you so much. I am conscious of time, so I am going to hand things over to Ravi now, who is going to tell us about the road ahead. Thanks so much, Mike.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah. I know we're a little short on time, so I won't even attempt to enumerate all of the cool ideas that we're thinking about to make Ask easier to use, more credible, and more efficient. But let me just speak directionally. We're thinking deeply about how to weave the power of Ask, the power of conversational insight across more of our product and the data experience. That can include, for example, dashboards and reports and even our connections and integrations and schedules and that sort of thing. But understanding our users, is a key question for us. So we really want to take a holistic view across the personas, the roles, and the responsibilities across the industry, across your business, whether you're in marketing or visitor services or strategic planning. We really want Ask to be able to understand all of those jobs to be done and act in a really intelligent and credible way, so it helps you succeed as your partner. And then I think this all dovetails into what I believe personally, hand on heart, is the most important job for Ask and for Dexibit. We want to bring every user, every customer, every visitor attraction on this journey and not leave anyone behind. And I think Sophie touched on this around accessibility and providing confidence for our users. Ask heralds this new era of hyper efficiency. It's all about maximizing impact with the resources at your disposal, whether that's on an individual level or as a broader collective organization. Efficiency creates the precious time and space to focus on our most ambitious ideas, to dedicate ourselves to the initiatives and causes that we care most deeply about, and ultimately delight our visitors and stakeholders. And that's what we want Dexibit to be able to do. We will continue to improve Ask to be easier to use and more accessible. It will always remain a safe and private space for you to experiment and play with your data and insights in your own time and in your own way. So we're thinking deeply about training and supporting and that wraparound environment, so that we know we can help you and your organization and all users to be able to benefit from this technology. I'm reminded of one of our amazing customers, John Rouse from the Aquarium of the Pacific. He entered the industry in 1977, well before I was born, and was selling tickets out of a cigar box. John has seen many waves come along, from going online to going mobile, and now John is riding the AI wave through Ask, and he absolutely loves it. Ask is not something that I think you should fear, but I think it's your lever to move your world. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Angie.
Wow, thanks, Ravi. That was amazing to hear a little bit of a snippet of what's in store for us next year. And thank you everyone for sharing your expertise and experience with us today, especially for Sophie and Michael. We're so inspired by what your teams are doing with data and AI, and we're itching to see what you're going to do next with this, especially with what's in store for 2026 and Ask. So for everyone here today, to keep exploring after today's session, feel welcome to book a consultant demo with us at Dexibit to talk about your world and what you want to achieve. We've dropped the link for that in the chat. Along with, there's a AI policy template or a geo playbook to kickstart your AI journey today. I remember when we started Dexibit a decade ago, we used to talk about great leaders being like data informed, never driven, of course, because you're always in the driver's seat. And then it came about being insight inspired. And I think we're now entering into this new era where what defines great leadership will be insatiable curiosity. So thank you to Sophie and Michael for sharing theirs with us today, and to everyone here who embrace their inner curiosity by joining in. We can't wait to see what you've got in store to ask. Thank you.